Hey guys, and welcome back to Tony the Technician's channel, and today we're going to continue on with the 85 Camaro project. I just got done cleaning up the engine bay and vacuuming it up one more time. Now I'm going to go around and tape everything off. Hopefully I have enough tape. I don't know if I do. It's going to take quite a bit, and I'll be using newspaper and then some plastic for the floor and everything. But before I start priming and everything, I'm gonna go through and just take some, I gotta go pick some up, some sandpaper, and just kind of rough everything up. So when I spray the primer, it grabs onto the body real well, and then we can start laying the paint. But first I'm gonna mask it all off, and then we'll get into just scratching up the surface a little bit, and then we'll prime and paint. But this video is probably just gonna be taping it off, and that's about it. But let me show you where I'm going to start taping off, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, so as you can see, I got everything basically pretty much well cleaned up, and whatever isn't cleaned off will come off with the sandpaper. But other than that, I was originally going to tape off from here up, but then I realized I am gonna be painting this top part that runs across the top of the hood and my hood mounts. So I figured I might as well go from here down. So I will be taping off right along this ledge. So none of this will get painted, because when I get the car wrapped, they're gonna fold it over under here, and then from here down will all be black. So I'm just gonna go around and run masking tape along here. You want to do masking tape first and then put the newspaper over the masking tape, because sometimes if you just do the newspaper first and tape it down, then you still get the chance of overspray getting in between the newspaper and the body, and you get paint where you don't want it. So you want to do strips of masking tape everywhere that you're going to block off, and then newspaper on top of that with more masking tape, to really ensure that you don't get any overspray on parts that you don't want painted. But I'm gonna go ahead and get started, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay guys, so got the two sides done. I did remove my hood mounts because I want to paint where they go, as well as clean these up and paint those as well, because they look like crap. But basically when laying this, I made sure to tuck it behind each rubber mount, sorry about that. Stay flush with the turn or the bend of the fender, and I did about 6 to 8 inch pieces all along, making sure to overlap so you don't get any overspray on the body. Make sure there's no dirt or anything where you're laying tape, otherwise it's just going to peel off, and you don't want that. And I went all the way up to here, and then I'll tape off this. And I'm not too worried about taping this off yet. I'm gonna lay, I'm gonna try and cover up as much of the wiring harness as possible, because I don't care about painting the actual shrouding, but I don't want to paint any of the tape that labels the wires. And then I'm gonna cover the windshield as well. So I'm not too worried about this right here. I'll use plastic or newspapers and try and cover that up as much as possible. I'm going to cover up all of this, make sure I don't paint that, and then basically now that we have our first line of tape laid, now you can take your newspaper, put it on there, and tape it over top of the tape that you've already laid, if that makes sense. But if it doesn't, I'll go ahead and show you once I start taping down the newspaper. Alright, so got the reservoir covered up as well as the fuel lines. I tried to leave as much of the brake lines uncovered as possible because I want to get those repainted as well. I still got to clean up these lines, get as much dirt off of them as possible. But as far as all the important stuff, I do have covered up. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go down here and try and remove this clutch actuator that I'm not going to need anymore. And in the bottom of this line where it goes into the housing, there's a pin that runs through it, and in order to get this off, I need to remove that pin and drain the fluid, so you're going to want a pan to drain it into if you're going to be doing this. I doubt anybody is really doing it. It's not too often that somebody switches from a manual to automatic, but that's what I'm about to do now, and just try and see if I can figure out how to get this out of here. So that's what I'm doing now. Okay, so we got the clutch reservoir removed, which was simple enough. Before removing it, I pushed the pin out of here, pulled the hose, which is attached right here, pulled that out, went inside, pumped the clutch pedal a few times, made sure to get all the fluid out into the pan, and then I made sure this reservoir was empty. And then you just get up in here, and the hose just slides over this nipple right here, and you just pull it off, and that's as simple as removing the clutch reservoir and this part. And now I just have to figure out how to remove this line, which is also held in by like a pin right there, but I can't really get to it to punch it out, so I'm gonna figure out how to remove that. But I did get that part removed, and now I'm gonna move on. So here we are right now. I know it looks kind of crappy, but the point is I got the important stuff covered up so I don't paint it. And I still haven't laid the newspaper down or anything, because I think what I'm gonna do before that is go ahead and remove these brake line brackets so I can move them and get paint on everything here, and not just, you know, everything but where the brake line lies. Because another thing I'm gonna have to do is move this brake line back to where the old motor mounts used to be, and my new V8 motor mounts have to go right here. So that's another reason I'm doing it. But that's what I'm gonna do now, and then I'll get to laying the newspaper down. So, got the windshield done. Now, it's just kind of tucked down here. I'm not too worried about overspray along here, because once I get the engine bay done, I'll be pulling the wiring harness back inside the engine bay and taping this off really well, and actually painting all of this up here. But that'll be the second step. So I got the windshield done. Now this is what I mean. I did 2 lines of tape down the side, and then I laid the newspaper on top of it and held it down. This way it prevents any overspray from actually getting on the body of the car. And then when I do my next one, I'll make sure to overlap the next piece of newspaper onto this one and tape it down. So basically everything's overlapped, so there's no chance of overspray. And then I also tape it on the car as well, because I don't want it blowing around, because while I'm painting, I'm gonna have my fan on, not directly where I'm painting, but basically blowing all the fumes out of the garage. But I don't want any backwind blowing any of the newspaper around or the bags or anything like that. So you want to make sure everything's secure. But I'm just gonna finish putting newspaper all around the fenders, and that'll be it. Alrighty guys, so this is it. I laid the plastic out underneath the car, spread it out, wrapped it up over the nose. I know it looks funny, but it's protecting the car, and that's all that matters. Also, with the wind, I made sure to put plenty of tape in order to hold it down, because I don't want the wind blowing it off and blowing paint around and everything. So, got it all the way up to the front of the doors, wrapped around the wheel wells, and then the same thing on the other side. Got it tucked in here because I don't want to paint any of that, or the wiring for my headlights. Same thing over here. And then the only thing I want to do before I start actually painting is to make sure to pull that up so I don't actually get paint all over my floor and everything. But that's it. She's ready to roughen up with some sandpaper and start laying the primer. Alright guys, so that's basically it as far as taping everything off and protecting what I want to protect. It's a long process, but it's not hard. My main focus is to not paint other things in my garage, as well as parts of the car that I don't want painted. So I think I got that pretty well covered. You always want to make sure that you're painting in a well-ventilated area. I did go ahead and pick up some primer and some 320 grit sandpaper. I'm just gonna give this a real quick once over with sandpaper, vacuum everything up, and then we'll start priming. But that'll be in the next video, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to hit that thumbs up, comment if you have any questions, and subscribe if you're not a subscriber. And I'll see you guys next time on my next video where I'll be doing the sanding and priming. Thank you guys.